Hello, all. So I just got done seeing the last episode of Supergirl Season 1, the new DC superhero show for CBS. And I thought it was about time that I review the show and let my thoughts be known on the show and how good it is and whether or not it's good, and just give an overall review and summary of the show. So if you don't know, Supergirl is, of course, a TV show of Supergirl. The plot is pretty much Kara, who is Supergirl, is forced into the limelight of saving the day by a freak accident with an airplane. Her sister Alex, at the same time, is working for a government secret agency that tries to keep aliens under wraps. Alex is worried because Supergirl is a Kryptonian and a lot of aliens might have it in for her, so she tries to talk Supergirl out of being Supergirl. But because of situations, they realize that they both have to work together to try and save the day. And superhero adventures ensue, as it were. In my honest opinion, Supergirl is the best show yet of these DC superhero shows. And there's been a lot of them. There's been Gotham, there's been Flash, there's been Legends of Tomorrow, there's been Arrow, and there's going to be a lot more. And Supergirl is definitely the best one. And it has a few really good elements that I think the DC upcoming movie universe should learn from and take notes about. Especially after the few missteps that happened in Batman v Superman. What makes Supergirl a good show is a couple different things. So let's go over the pros first. First pro, I love this element. This is really what makes the show awesome in my mind. And it's something that more superhero-based TV shows, more superhero-based movies have to do, and they never seem to do. In every single episode of Supergirl, there is simply a scene of her being heroic. It's not plot related, it's not even character related, it's just her showing up out of the blue and doing something good. Like she stops a fire, or she stops a car crash, or she gets two people to stop fighting, or something. Just some random nice thing. And she does it every episode. Often in TV shows and movies, the superhero in question gets caught up in trying to beat the supervillain, to try and stop this one big threat. And they become so dedicated to doing this one thing that they kind of forget that they're supposed to be heroic, good characters doing heroic, good things. We gotta stop the bad guy, we gotta stop the bad guy, we gotta stop the bad guy. They get so caught up in it, and so caught up in the main plot, that the show or the movie often forgets that this is supposed to be a heroic, noble character that does heroic, noble things. And there's often not that moment where the story kind of pauses to let them do that, to actually have them save the day, be heroic, be this hope, this champion guiding light. Supergirl never forgets this. It does this every episode. It just has her do random good stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It's just there to show off that she's a nice person and she wants to help. It's awesome. I love that aspect about the show. It causes the whole show to have this really positive, lighthearted vibe. This really, it like lifts you up. It makes you happy. And that's another big pro of the show. It's just really easygoing and really fun and cheerful. It never gets too dark, never gets too sad. It's always happy, light. And I know people are like, you have to be dark, you have to be edgy, it makes you more mature, but you also have to be balanced. If you have every single show and movie be dark and edgy, and you have no fun and lighthearted stuff to kind of balance it out, your life ends up being pretty drab. So I know it can, in some cases, stop a show from developing and being too serious, but you need your soft, funny, lighthearted moments, and that this show's full of that. Another pro is that it works very hard to be a comic book and to be almost like an ongoing serial. At the end of every episode, they have a cliffhanger ending that leads into the next episode. So it's like one adventure to the next, and it's very campy at times. At times, it's just like reading a comic book because it's never ashamed of how goofy comic books can get. This is a show that is completely alright with the main character fighting giant robots or aliens, or people that are blue in skin color, or any number of random wonky things. It's unashamed and just never holds back. It never tries to play itself serious or real or dark or gritty. It just wants to have fun with the content. The first episodes wanted to have so much fun with the content, it started to become kind of meta and self-referential. Like, for example, Supergirl starts poking fun at her own Supergirl outfit, saying it's too sexualized. This did more meta stuff with its premise than Deadpool did in that entire movie, and that was dedicated to being meta. This did more meta stuff in its single pilot episode that had 1 or 2 gags about it. That's how much Deadpool didn't actually get the meta concept. This actually did more with it, so cheers for that too. But yeah, the comedy moments are really smart, funny, kind of snarky, and I do like how hopeful and optimistic the show gets. And for the one more pro, not on the cons yet because there's a lot of pros, but one more pro, Martian Manhunter is a total badass. I love the freaking character. He has so many badass moments. And what's really good is the whole rest of the show is really happy and go-lucky and jokey and all cool. But he's a serious, brooding character. So every time he steps on screen, there's this massive contrast. And because he's serious, he seems even more serious because he's, opposed to all this funny, happy-go-lucky stuff. He seems so much more serious and tough because he's right next to all this happy goodness. And as a result, he has all these random, out-of-the-blue, badass moments. Like, there's this one scene in season 1 where he fights the person and they're like, oh, you're darn lucky to be alive. You are just the last of your race, and you some would call it lucky that you're still standing. And then he just smacks the person. They fall to the ground. He grabs them. He pulls them. The building explodes. It's like it never had anything to do with luck. That's what he says in the scene, and that scene is so freaking badass. Everything about Martian Manhunter is badass. Just that whole character is badass. And all the other characters are pretty good too. None of them are bad, but he's badass. I'm just saying, you can make a spin-off show of him and it would totally work because he is awesome. But now on to the cons, because there are a few cons that I want to address. And the number one con, and this is a big one, and it's just annoying as all crap, is the show keeps referencing and mentioning and talking about Superman and refuses to put Superman into the show. Now, it would be fine if Superman's not in the show. It is Supergirl's show. That makes sense. But if you don't want to put Superman in the show, which is fine, you have to stop referencing him. He's literally mentioned in the opening of every single episode, and they literally show him off in the distance in 1 or 2 episodes. And they keep bringing him up. It even has him messaging Supergirl while she's on the phone. He quick messages her and stuff like that. When you reference a character this often, it leads the viewer to think you're going to introduce them sooner or later and gets the viewer hyped about actually seeing this character. It's not even necessarily that's Superman. If you foreshadow any character this much, you'd want to see that character in the show. It was some overweight dude named Bob who kept picking his nose and farted a lot. If it talked about Bob a whole lot, you'd still eventually really want to see him. No matter how bad he might sound, you will eventually want to see him. And that's the whole situation with Superman. They've mentioned him so much that the fact that they still refuse to put him in the show is annoying beyond measure. So either they have to actually put him in season 2, or they have to stop referencing him. Change the opening, drop all the nods to him, stop having him pop up in the background and never use. Stop doing it unless you're actually going to do it. You're like half-butting it right now. Just half-butting it. Another con that I found is the villains are alright, but none of them actually seems like a good arch nemesis for Supergirl. Like, none of them really seems to put her really toe to toe, and none of them really seem that iconic. Like, there's no villains that at this point, as of yet, really stand out. They almost came close with a character that was her aunt, but spoilers, that character died, so it didn't work out. But other than that, there's been no real characters that, at least to me, stood out as iconic villains. And in a superhero show, the villains are just as important as the heroes. So I definitely think this show needs to work better at having better villains. And if it's going to keep mentioning Superman, it actually has to put Superman in the blasted show. Ugh. But still, the positives well outweigh the cons. I love how happy-go-lucky, silly, and optimistic this show is. And I like a lot of horror. I like a lot of dark, serious content. So I need a happy-go-lucky show to kind of give me my balance. And right now, this has been doing that rather nicely. So I definitely want this show to keep up this optimistic thing that it's been doing. We'll just have to see how it goes with season 2. I've heard that it's had low ratings, but positive reviews, which is why it's getting a season 2. I hope they don't take the criticism too much to heart and try to rework everything, because a lot of the elements of the show are perfect just the way they are. Yes, it's campy. Yes, it's silly. Yes, it's childish. Yes, it seems a bit, childlike and all that jazz, but you need shows like that. You need stuff like that. You need optimistic, happy-go-lucky stuff. If you just have serious, dark stuff, all you're making is one big downer, and yeah, that's what it seems like the DC movie universe might turn into if it's not careful, which is why I'm saying they should take notes from this and maybe hire the staff of this to start writing their DC movies. That might be a good idea. But anyways, what all did you think of the Supergirl Season 1? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it could use some improvements? What did you think was in the pod at the end of the last episode? I don't know. Probably a Kryptonian dog or cat will probably jump out and claw her face off, and that would be a bit messed up, but also a bit oddly amusing, as it were. But overall, great show. Right now, it's my second favorite superhero-style show. My favorite, of course, being Steven Universe, and I can't wait for more episodes of that. That show is still awesome. But this show is awesome too, and so far, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. But what did you think? Let me know, and as always, cheers.